Hello, thanks for joining me, astrologer Patrick Arundell. Welcome. Today I'm going to do a deep dive into the Cancer new moon of the 20th of July at 5:32 p.m. Universal Central Time. If you're new to my channel, I'd be honoured if you'd subscribe. Also, you can chat with me directly on Twitter at Horoscope Ace, or please join my wife and I for our daily astrology and spirituality show. It's a video show, it's proving great fun, really popular, and you can grab your free daily horoscope every single day by clicking the link beneath this video. So this event is really quite unique because the moon, of course, is in its home zone of Cancer, where it's domiciled. But on the other side of the heavens, we have stern Saturn. The most restrictive and limiting influence of the heavens is in direct opposition to this particular new moon. So it is going to pose some challenges. Now, what I'm going to do, as usual, is share with you the event chart, because it's not just the event itself that's going to impact on us. There are other planetary influences that I need to share with you to help you navigate this next 4-week period. So please stick with me, and after that I'm going to share your zodiac sign forecast for the next month. Thank you. So here is the day chart for the event. The Cancer new moon, 5:32 p.m. Universal Central Time. And you can see that the moon is at 28 degrees, 26 in Cancer, and there is the sun at the same point. Now in this particular chart it puts them in the 7th house, but if you watch another video where the astrologer is recounting this event based in the United States or somewhere else in the world, you will get a different ascendant. But my ascendant is Sagittarius, and we also have the gorgeous part of fortune just on that ascendant, which is asking us to be a bit more optimistic in our approach. And the 7th house is very much about relating. It has a kind of Libran energy. So what's not to like? As usual, a new moon is very much a time to set our intent, to visualize what we want for the next 4 weeks. And we can still do this. But on the other side of the heavens, we have Saturn, the planet of structure. Now that's in direct opposition to the moon and the sun. Now what makes this new moon fascinating, therefore, is both the moon and Saturn are domiciled in their home zones. But they're both cardinal signs, so we get a bit of a tussle for power. And the normal joyfulness that comes with a new moon is going to be potentially inhibited by the more restrictive energies of Saturn. If you stay with me for your full in-depth zodiac sign forecast, I explain on each sign where Saturn has its impact and how you can best negotiate it. Now there are some other planetary influences on this event chart which can give us some light relief, not least that we have the gorgeous Venus in the sign of Gemini in a wonderful sextile with Mars, which itself is domiciled in its home zone. Now Mars in a sextile to Venus is quite sociable, and of course that depends on where we are in the world, how much we can physically socialise, but I do think that that's quite an upbeat, joyous potential to offset the rather more limiting, restrictive and inhibiting influence of Saturn. Also, Uranus, the planet of surprises and innovation, is in a great link with Mercury, which itself is in Cancer. If we do find ourselves faced with some kind of intractable problem, I think this is saying to us to think again freshly. And because Uranus does govern the sign of Aquarius, which is of course air and very much to do with logic, this is asking us to step back a little bit, be a bit more detached in our approach to try to unlock some new ways to solve any issues we face. Also, beautifully, the two rulers of Pisces in Jupiter and Neptune are in a glorious sextile. So if Saturn does really put its foot down at any point in our personal experience, what we can do is embrace the more spiritual dimension that Jupiter and Neptune provide to us. So a walk in nature, some quiet time, some meditation, or listening to some healing or gentle music can be great ways to deal with the intensity of this particular new moon. Finally, also Juno, the asteroid of relating, is in opposition to Mars, suggesting that even if we are a little bit impulsive around a relationship matter, we could find ourselves in some kind of connection with someone that actually is really rather stimulating. So that's asking us to be very open-minded about the type of person we can connect to. But Cancer energy, of course, is about nurture. It's about protection. It's about security. And I think in this chart, it's asking us to think about our relationships, most of all in that context. But we just need to be aware that with Saturn in such a stark opposition, we may not be able to manifest everything in quite the way we want, which is why we need those dealing strategies that I've outlined in your Zodiac Sign Forecast. Aries, your new moon in the sign of Cancer is a wonderful opportunity for you to embrace your more homely instincts. But the challenge of Saturn for you is that just when you may be feeling at your most sensitive, there are going to be some big demands likely to crowd in and seek your attention. This could be to do with work. It may be to do with responsibilities for people older or younger than you. It may be that you are going to have to step up a search for employment or to adapt in some way because of COVID. Also, your ruling planet Mars is in an opposition with Juno, the planet of relating. So if you do find yourself becoming a little bit impatient, it could actually be quite counterproductive. The great news is that Mars is forging a delicious link with Venus. So if you can fall back on just trying to relax into whatever you're facing and use your people skills to the best extent, along with tuning into your more homely instinct, that's going to help you to deal with the challenges but also the opportunities that this month can provide. Now Taurus, this is a new moon which is emphasizing communication. Now our communication in the third house where the new moon occurs is very much about our instant thoughts. It's about quick, rather speedy types of communication. But if you say something in a little bit of a sloppy way, it's possible that Saturn on the other side of the heavens, which is in the part of your situation to do with higher thinking, may seem that someone could challenge you. Perhaps it's a point of view you have, a belief system, an idea. Someone quite authoritative could push back unless you are absolutely right on the details. So it is going to be important to have your facts absolutely spot on. However, Mercury, the planet of communication, is actually forging a terrific angle with Uranus in your sign. So it doesn't mean to say that you shouldn't go with the flow and be rather spontaneous in terms of your ideas, because you could have some great ideas for sure. But it is true that Mars is in a very sensitive part of your horoscope when it comes to relationships. And it's possible that something from your past could be stirred deep within you. But alternatively, Mars in this sector, in its link to your ruler Venus, could see you use a past skill, experience, or some techniques, but adapt them in a new way, which actually can bring you some kind of financial income that is a little bit different, but actually very pleasing. Gemini, this new moon is very much about resources. Saturn on the other side of the heavens may mean that there could be a bit of a pinch point in terms of your income, but there are creative possibilities for you to pursue. Not least, Venus in your sign is about money, and it forges a very positive angle to Mars. It may be a case of who as much as what you know over the next month. Also, your ruling planet Mercury is combining in a very sparkling way with Uranus, the planet of change. And it's possible that you could have a brainwave this month that can drive you forwards in a more positive way. If you are someone who works in a more spiritual or caring environment, The beautiful link between Neptune and Jupiter, the two rulers of Pisces, can see you very, very creative, and that can see your imagination trigger some brilliant ideas. I just think Saturn's saying to you that whatever you try to do this month has to work in a very practical and down-to-earth way, even if the initial idea itself is something that's much more ingenious or creative. Cancer, this new moon is of course in your sign, so this is very much about your individuality. It's about defining that individuality over the next month. Now, ordinarily, with a new moon in our own sign, it's a wonderful opportunity to give ourselves some kind of makeover. And because you also have Mercury in your sign, forging a brilliant angle to Uranus, the planet of change, it could be around friendships or your long-term future direction that you set your intentions on this new moon. But I think you do have to be conscious of the role of Saturn. Obviously, the moon is your ruler, and therefore in its domicile in your sign, Saturn, ironically, is domiciled in its favourite sign of Capricorn. But Saturn is a limiting influence. So if you want to do something for you, the individual, that doesn't quite mesh in with the expectations of those closest to you or the people that you need to keep on board in order to help your personal plan come to fruition, that can create a sticking point which will require some care to negotiate. Fortunately, Neptune and Jupiter forge a beautiful alliance which does point towards, if you can take a more philosophical and spiritual approach to any blockages or objections that come up, it's much more likely to flow in your direction eventually. Also, Venus continues in your sector of reminiscences, and this can bring someone back into your world, or it can be a past contact in your professional situation which comes back into the here and now, or perhaps gives you a very valuable reference which helps you to spring forwards in a more authoritative and self-confident way in its alliance with Mars. Mars continues in a brilliant area for you to show extra confidence right through to the first week of next year. Leo, this new moon is one of the most gentle and healing, potentially, of the whole lunar cycle. It gives you an opportunity to tune into that part of yourself that perhaps you don't always have time or even the inclination to bond with, the subconscious, anything to do with your hunches, your instincts. If you do feel like some escapism over the next month, it would hardly be a surprise. But if you are juggling some more work-based issues, I do feel that that could be a cause of some concern. This is because Saturn in your 6th house is very much to do with the everyday reality of work. The 12th house is more to do with some of the things we can't really control. That can be our anxiety. It can also be our imagination in some ways, but also it can be the people that we need to connect with that we don't necessarily have a personal relationship with, such as colleagues. So if there is any uncertainty around your employment situation at the moment, it may come to the fore. But in your favour, you have a sparkling alliance between Mars and Venus. Your charisma, when you turn it on, is something to behold. But I do think that this new moon is asking you to be very much in touch with your intuition. And that intuition can particularly serve you well when it comes to your work, because I think that you may have been feeling quite restless around this sector for some time anyway. So if you are thinking about making a change, then I do think you should be open to perhaps some less obvious routes. It's not always the well-trodden path that's the best route to go, but because you're a fixed sign, sticking with what you know can bring you a sense of comfort and familiarity. But at this particular time, I think you may have to challenge that. Virgo, this new moon occurs in your sector of friendship and future hopes. Anything to do with our highest expectations. It's a more spiritual dimension, if you like. But with grumpy old Saturn on the other side of the heavens, I think one of the things you may have to manage over the next month is your time. Don't be surprised if some people do want to spend more time with you, and therefore you may have to make some choices. In a romantic situation, if you are spending more time orientated towards your interests or your wider social circle, it could be that a partner will need more support or your attention, or it could be that your children will need a little bit more of your time. In terms of the wider perspective of your situation, there's a terrific angle between Neptune and Jupiter right through this month, which is very, very uplifting. And it suggests that if you do have some creative ideas, and perhaps where you can work collectively with someone else, this could be something that really captures your imagination. Uranus is pushing you to be a bit more experimental in your approach, and that could even be in your choice of company as much as your personal interests. Libra, this new moon is accentuating your ambitions. If you are wanting to raise your profile, your vibration, to reach a wider audience, if you work for yourself, for example, or you're thinking about trying to push forwards and gain some kind of promotion or a greater status in an existing role, then this could be your time to act. But Saturn on the other side of the heavens is likely to remind you of the need that your emotional foundations are secure enough in order for you to make this bid for glory. On the other hand, if you have an existing role, it's possible that the emotional dimension of that role is actually going to become more of a reality. So if it is anything to do with COVID, this may be rather inhibiting if there has been a change or a potential change going on, which rightly could bring up the potential for some anxiety. But Mercury, the planet of communication, is also in your sector of success and is forging a great link with Uranus. The more flexible you can be and open-minded, the better you can do. And also your ruler Venus is forging a superb angle to Mars. Now Mars is in an area which is asking you to be more assertive. Venus in one which is asking you to be very open-minded about the type of people or situations where you can connect. So if there is something that's a bit stuck or inhibited in an existing role, do be as open-minded as possible. But with Mars in opposition to Juno, the planet of relating in your sign, you may have to overcome any kind of timidity or unsureness about what you have to offer. But if you can show maximum self-confidence and not be affected too much by Saturn's impact in your home of emotions, then this can be a time of moving forwards in a very positive way. Scorpio, ordinarily, if we were talking about this new moon, we'd be talking about travel, expanding your horizons, even higher education. And if you're fortunate enough to be in a part of the world that is allowing movement, then I think you may take the opportunity to grab some kind of change of scene, even if it's somewhere relatively local to your existing situation. Any kind of alteration to your routines can actually be like a breath of fresh air. But with stern Saturn in opposition to this new moon, if there is anything of a contractual nature going on in your situation, this could cause you some concern. Maybe there's going to be some hard bargaining that you need to do. Saturn really suggests that you shouldn't be too fixed in your response to this discussion, but at the same time, you shouldn't let your boundaries be overrun. With Uranus, the planet of surprises in your sector of relationships, I think that can be an area which is ripe for some kind of change, particularly as Uranus is forging a beautiful link with Mercury. Someone could invite you on some kind of trip or expedition at the last minute. It can all happen in a whirl, but actually it can delight you and be just what you need. But with your ruler Mars in the most hard-working part of your situation, linking with Venus, if you really concentrate on the detail carefully, when it comes to a financial discussion, I think you can come out of it quite well. But your original plans earlier this year to expand your role or your lifestyle may still need to be tempered in some way, not just by Saturn's impact, of course, but by the general impact of COVID. Sagittarius. My chart is based on Universal Central Time, which gives it a Sagittarius ascendant. And just tucked up behind the ascendant is the part of fortune. This is also known as Fortuna. What does this mean? Well, the part of fortune is calculated in a day chart, as this one is, by taking the ascendant and adding it to the moon, but minusing out the position of the sun. Just so you know, in a night chart, if you're born at night, the part of fortune is calculated by adding the ascendant and the sun together and minusing the position of the moon. But the part of fortune can be to do with financial good luck. And that's intriguing because this particular new moon is in your sector of long-term finances. You also have Mercury in this location too, forging a very providential link to Uranus. I think what this is saying to you is that if you can be flexible, which is often one of your great strengths, but just go with the flow if things are ebbing and changing in your situation, perhaps due to COVID, you can do very well. And your relationships can be very important to your progress because Mars is in a very self-expressive part of your situation and forging a very positive angle to Venus, the planet of relating, which is in your sector of relationships. So some kind of connection to someone can happen very positively this month. But in an existing relationship, and it could be a business relationship, there is the potential for something to be kind of inhibited, blocked, or maybe not function quite as well as you would like. And that is because of the more break-in, restrictive energy of Saturn, which is opposing the new moon. But just another thing, Juno, the planet of relating, or asteroid of relating, is in an opposition with Mars. So if you do find yourself, if you're single, attracted to someone very different this month, do be very open-minded about who this could be. It could be rather intriguing and rather exciting too. Capricorn. This new moon is very much about your relationships. It's an opportunity to take these really seriously. With Saturn, your ruler, in direct opposition to both the sun and the moon, I think it is possible that if there is a sticking point in one particular involvement, it's likely to come to the fore in the next month. But see this as an opportunity to cleanse and improve the situation. Mercury is also in the sign of Cancer, but it's forging a superb angle to Uranus. Uranus is all about innovation and perhaps a rethink or a new approach to an old relationship issue can really work some wonders. Also, Mars, the planet of drive, is in a very practical part of your situation, which can see you making some changes at home. If you can do this in collaboration with someone, work in partnership, then that could be a real smart thing to do. Some goats may even think of some kind of employment or business opportunity which is based around a relationship. What I would say with Saturn in opposition, it's just going to be really important that each of you is very clear about your specific roles, the level of responsibility and commitment it would require, and this is enshrined in some kind of formal agreement so you know exactly where you stand right from the off. I do think that that could be really very helpful. Aquarius. This new moon occurs in your sector of practicalities. Now, if you're somebody like this Aquarius that's not so fine-tuned when it comes to everything being neat and tidy, all your CDs in their cases, paperwork meticulously in the folders that they should be in, and so on, this is a great opportunity for you, and most certainly for me, to up our game. But it's also a new moon which sees Saturn in a much more psychological location again. So if you are working very, very hard, perhaps to deal with the impact of COVID, I know I have been, then there's only so many plates that we can spin. So I think this new moon is saying it is very important to make sure that we get enough exercise, we get to bed early enough, we're eating the right kind of nutrition, we have some kind of balance. But if you are feeling a bit out of shape or out of kilter, don't exclude the more psychological side of things. Being an air sign, us Aquarius people can see things very logically, and sometimes it is important to embrace our vulnerabilities and not be hung up about it. But despite this, Aquarius, there is of course that sparkling alliance between Mars and Venus, and some exciting conversations can be a backdrop to the next month. And also with Juno, the asteroid of relating, in a very expansive part of our scope, and in opposition to Mars, it may be quite surprising who we actually are drawn towards and the type of conversations we have. They can prove to be really uplifting. Pisces, this new moon occurs in the glorious 5th house for you, which is very much about self-expression. It's about love. It's about affection. It's about warmth. It's governed by the sun itself, even though for you it is in the rather watery but caring sign of Cancer. So with Saturn on the other side of the heavens, what does this mean? Well, if there is some part of your situation where you don't feel that you can manifest your talents and your warmth like you would like, perhaps a relationship where someone's very critical or a bit cold or a bit distant, or are you at times a little bit distracted or detached in this way, this may be a good time to rethink your approach. Now, your two ruling planets of Jupiter and Neptune are actually forging a quite glorious alliance for the rest of July and into August. So this is really encouraging you to try to ascend to the highest part of your nature when it comes to being caring, to working collectively with others. And if there is a part of your situation which is causing you to feel a little bit unhappy, do try to attend to it. Don't just try to ignore it. In fact, Uranus and Mercury are in a superb alliance on this event chart, and that gives you an opportunity to be much more creative and imaginative in embracing opportunities, but also making some changes or looking at an old problem in a different, fresh way, which actually can be very positive for you. It's been a real pleasure being with you. I hope you've really enjoyed this Cancer New Moon presentation. Remember, I'd love you to subscribe. You can connect with me on Twitter @HoroscopeAce, or join Elisa and I for the daily video show. As I say, it's great fun. Please see the link beneath this video and you can grab your free daily horoscope. Or if you'd like to ascend above Zodiac Sign Astrology, check out my natal horoscope reports. Please see the link below. You can grab one of these and also get a 30% discount. Or you can see my testimonials and choose to have a one-to-one with me personally. But for now, take care, stay safe, and good luck.